So at this moment, we would like to bring on to our stage Jessica Monet Evans, who is a wonderful advisory board member for Artist Magnet, is a board member for Artist Magnet Justice Alliance, and will be guiding us in a somatic grounding experience that we can all participate in. So Jessica, can you see us? Can you hear us? Can you turn on your camera and your mic? Can you join us? Oh, there you are. How you
Yes.
doing?
I'm well. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, I can hear and see you perfectly. Okay, I will let you take the
Fantastic.
stage.
Beautiful. So, good afternoon, everyone. I had to check the clock. It is afternoon. Good afternoon. I hope we are all doing well, feeling grateful for waking up this morning and being present here today. I'm just going to guide you through a little exercise with some sounds, and then we will conclude with some movements in our chairs just to and present and open and activated and ready to engage today. So here we go. I have a little bowl here. So if I can have you close your eyes and just be present with your body, focused on your breathing, connecting to the present moment today, what you're doing here, why you're here, not thinking about the news or anything that's going on in the world, just being present and silent and listening to the sounds, allowing it to vibrate through your entire body from the top of your head all the way down to through into your toes. Here we go. If you don't want to close your eyes, that's fine. Just be present and breathe. Here we go. Just tuning in to your body, allowing the sounds to vibrate, breathing, feeling the fireball from the top of your head, going through your neck, down to your shoulders, into your heart space, in your womb, in your stomach, to the sides, down to your obliques, sparkling through that spinal cord, wrapping around your waist, sprinkling down through your thighs, sprinkling through those kneecaps, bouncing around through your shins, going down to your toes. Yes. So allow this light to again start at the top of your head and funnel all the way down, nice and smooth with a beautiful inhale, taking a deep breath in and releasing it out. Again, taking a deep breath in and releasing it out. Can you still see me? I'm frozen on this end. Fantastic. One deep breath in, taking those arms all the way up to the top, right above your head, twinkling those fingers like this, just running through your fingers, just saying good afternoon, fingers. I'm so grateful to have you, to text, to type, to put my hair behind my ear, to clean the coal out of my eyes. Yes, bringing those arms down back to your side, nice and smooth. Rolling those shoulders back, allowing any stress, any tension, any anxiety, any presence that doesn't need to be here today, that doesn't bring joy, rolling it forward, allowing any weight to just roll on off. We just want to connect, be present, be positive in a fantastic community, bringing together our voices, bringing together that justice. Bringing those arms up again to the top And we can raindrop it down, twinkling through those fingers again. Fantastic. We're going to press our chest forward, shining with that light in our hearts like a Care Bear, blinding people with that joy, that gratitude with no attitude, which I like to say. Recharging it up, bringing that heart back, flexing through your spinal cord, your back, maybe rolling through those shoulders again, making sure that there's no weight or tension. Shining that heart again, keeping that light bright and present. Coming back to neutral. Bringing one arm to the side. Yes. Feeling that flex right along the side. Reversing it down. Other arm. Just stretching to the side. Allowing your body to know that you are here. You remember it and you're moving. Yes. Saying no. Moving your head side to side. Releasing any negative thoughts. Repurposing them with positive ones. Acknowledging that you are unique and fabulous with all of the gifts you have to offer. Bringing your head up and down, ending in a yes. Taking in that love, that gratitude, that resilience, the strong will, the beautiful artistry that you bring to this world. Nice. Coming back to neutral, bringing those arms up to the top, palms together, down to your heart. Last inhale, taking it in nice and deep. And release with a sigh. And I thank you so much. I hope you feel a lot peaceful, a lot more peaceful, a lot more connected, a lot more grounded, just feeling free and loosey-goosey and no strings attached, just here, present, and ready to dive in. So I want to pass it over to David. I thank you so much. Maintain your breathing. Please stay hydrated, and we will connect again.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Jessica, for leading us in that experience, reminding us that that connection, body and mind, and the energy is so important to what we are all experiencing together in these times, but in this space, in this moment. So I'm already feeling so much more centered. Thank you again. At this moment, it is my pleasure to bring onto the stage my friend and colleague, Brian Sonia Wallace, who you can feel free to do an introduction of all the wonderful things that you do. But I'll just say that Brian and I have been partners in crime together for years, years and years, doing all types of artistic shenanigans in the Los Angeles County area. And so honored to call Brian a friend. And Brian, among many things, is a poet and will be gracing us with a poem at this time. So take it away, Brian.
Thank you, Dave. Some good trouble over the years. So I'm tasked with opening and closing the session that you're about to hear today with a poem. And so at the end, I'll be listening to what the panelists are saying and writing live as we go. This is sort of the core of my practice, is a live storytelling or live recording practice, bringing people's stories together and putting them into verse. But to start with, a little meditation on the theme of our conference today, which, as you know, is hot justice. And so to kick things off, I humbly present to you this poem entitled Ode to Hot Justice. What makes justice hot? Is it just global warming? Or is it basic human dignity, self-expression a right, not a privilege? Augusto Boal says, the oppressed are those who are denied the right to make metaphors. We are here today to be stepladders and sunbeams, para cruzar culturas y lenguas, to listen and to find the words. Here are a few good ones: funding, equity, cerulean, orgasmic. This is hot justice, after all. Justicia picante, the kind that burns your mouth so good you want more, the kind white people mostly can't handle. In pursuit of justice, we may singe each other with our grief, phoenix into joy, create a ladder up for those behind us. Welcome a new dawn with open arms. Look how all our tiny faces sit in cyberspace chairs together. We've come. We're burning. However far apart we are in this fight, you are not alone. Thank you, Dave. We'll see you at the end.
We will see you on the other side. Thank you so much, Brian. That was awesome. And yet I cannot get enough and always want more. Orgasmic. Yes. If you liked what you heard, throw some applauses up, throw some hollers in the chat. So we want to move it right along and kick off the conversation that Brian so beautifully alluded to. And so at this point, I am ready to introduce our moderator, Rosa Navarrete. Feel free to come up onto the stage. Rosa and I have also worked together in multiple organizations in Los Angeles County. Rosa also has a great connection to the Bay Area community and is really a leader in artivism, in arts and social justice across the state. And we are very grateful to have her moderating this conversation with our panelists. So I'm going to let you continue the introduction of yourself. Rosa, please tell people, yes, your affiliations, pronouns, land acknowledgements, and affiliations, and then guide the panelists onto the stage. And I'll let you all take it from here for the next 40 minutes for us. Thank you.
Wow. I am still learning to take compliments, folks, but thank you so much, David. I am so grateful to be part of this community and to be in this platform, this really cool platform that Jessica Monet Evans and I just dubbed like Sims, but for extra people who like to look at each other. That's what it feels like. And I'm excited to be here with all of you. And good day to you all, beautiful human beings tapping into the world of the arts, tapping into the world of economy, and in the sustainability of who we are in the mix of the whole thing. My name is Rosa Lisbeth Navarrete. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am a Peruvian writer, actor, and director, currently residing on Chumash and Tongva land, or a town called El Sereno, within the Los Angeles County. We're so grateful for your presence today, and I'm so excited to introduce to you some of the most incredible human beings who are going to elevate and excavate our work in community and the arts, so that we can deepen our time together and continue pushing the envelope forward towards equity, change, and artist sustainability. Please ask your questions on the chat section. You'll see it right there on the, maybe it's this side, depending on what my video looks like. It says Q&A. You can put your question into that section. And if we have some time at the end of our session together, we can flow into a Q&A portion. And if not, please stay for the networking, last few minutes of networking, and we can answer questions there. Find us in the remote world. I'm now going to introduce onto the space our amazing panelists. And if we can welcome them in, I think you have to turn on your cameras to come and jump aboard, correct? Huzzah! All of the beautiful faces. We're here. Yes. Okay, beautiful. I'm going to give you time to introduce yourselves to the world of Remo today. So let's start with Christina, and then go ahead and pass the mic to the next person when you're done introducing yourself.
Hello, Sims. I'm Christina Wong, she, her pronouns. I'm on Tongva, Chumash, Gabrielino, and Keachland, renamed by settlers as Chinatown. And I am a solo performer, a writer, a comedian, an elected official, and recently a Pulitzer Prize finalist for my show, Christina Wong Sweatshop Overlord, which details my last 2.5 years, running a group called the Auntie Sewing Squad, a mask making mutual aid group that went on to make 350,000 masks for vulnerable communities. I'm going to pass it to Sydney Rogers.
Thank you, Christina. Hi, everyone. My name is Sydney, also known as Miss Barbecue. I am a professional drag queen, speaker, event host, cultural competency consultant, all the things, actor, performer, singer, all the things. I sit on various boards, and I'm also getting my master's in social work. Goodness, glad to be here. You can find me on Instagram, Instagram and social media. I'm also a published author, and I'm also been featured in New York Times and LA Times and all that kind of stuff too. My resume is long, which I'm very proud of. I used to shy away from it, but my resume is long. So very, very proud to be here. And I will pass it over to David Holland.
All right. Thanks so much, Cindy. My name is David Holland. I'm the Deputy Director of an organization called WestF. I am, I suppose you'd say, an arts administrator, a consultant, and an educator. My preferred pronouns are he, him, his. I'm joining you today from what is now known as Denver, Colorado, on the lands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute. And I'm really happy to be part of this space today, and thank you for joining us. And I'll pass over to Aubrey.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, David. My name is Aubrey Bergauer. I'm so happy and honored to be here. I am coming at you from the unceded land of the Ramaytush Ohlone. Today, we call that San Francisco. And my whole career has been in arts administration in different roles, development, marketing. A lot of people know my work from when I was executive director of the California Symphony. And the last 3 years, I've been working as a consultant speaker with other organizations trying to have an impact beyond one organization in the industry. So thank you, guys. I'm so happy to be here.
All right, amazing. I feel the vibrations of all of your superpowers already. And I'm so excited that you're going to share these superpowers with our community today. So my first question will go to Aubrey, who just spoke. So Aubrey, during your time at California Symphony, you helped double the size of its audience and nearly quadruple the donor base. You've tapped into something powerful that I hope you can share with our network today. Since the beginning of the pandemic, movements have swept the nation into witnessing and/or activating arts organizations who have jumped into new ways to seek new talent, invite into new creative and administrative roles into spaces like California Symphony. So for someone who might be here today wanting to start or transition into the world of classical and the musical scene or the classical music scene, what are some ways that they can get their foot in the door? And what are some ways to keep folks encouraged while they are in the world of classical music?
Thanks, Rosa. These are big questions. And I don't know if you guys can hear these sirens. I'm sorry about that. Okay. I think I'll start by zooming out a bit. When I was leading the California Symphony, I went there. I had worked at previously much larger institutions, but went to this smaller regional orchestra because the board was so adamant that they wanted change. They didn't know what that meant. They really didn't know what that meant, to be honest. But I had this green light to do the things that I had wanted to do in other roles and had kind of, to some degree, been able to do with, within the scope or authority that role allowed for. But I decided, I would come to this organization and it would be my testing ground to actually make the change I want to see. And at the time, that, to answer kind of the first part of your question, what was that growth? How did we, grow the audience and donor base so much. At the time, I would say there were 3 pillars of that success. I've since expanded my thinking, but the first is the customer experience. So much of the vernacular today has changed. I say the narrative is changing. This is one way it is changing. The vernacular today is around, we want to center our communities. That is not stuff people said 5 years ago, 6 years ago. 2014 is when I took that job. Like, they definitely didn't talk like that then, especially at these established traditional institutions, right? So center the customer. That meant doing user experience research, learning what are the pain points. And it turns out, especially in classical music, there's a lot of pain points that translate to intimidation, feeling unwelcome, feeling like you don't belong. And so we listened to that feedback and tried to start just making changes that directly addressed the concerns we were hearing. Lo and behold, you do that, ask your audience, ask your community what they want. They tell you, you listen, you start making changes. You start selling more tickets. So, okay, that started happening. That's pillar 1. Pillar 2 of the 3, I would say, is retention. I will try not to get on the soapbox too much on this, but in classical music, and this is not that different in other performing arts disciplines, 9 out of 10 first-time attendees never come back. So 90% of the audience was turning over after having come once. And so we really doubled down on, no, we've got to invite people back in tandem with changing the experience to making it more welcoming, unintimidating, creating a sense of belonging. Okay, so we started then retaining on to more of the people who were coming in the doors, not just being a revolving door. And then the third piece was the beginning of my own EDI journey. And this was back in 2016, 2017. We started really setting metrics. I used to think, I don't know if this is helpful for anybody to hear, I used to think setting metrics and quotas around this work was bad. And then I learned, well, what gets measured gets managed. And this is advice other people had given me. And I thought, well, the same way, I'm very data driven. So the same way we're measuring all these other things, we need to be measuring this too. Are we reflective of our community and our audience and our programming, and not just programming different composers and calling it a day, but who's on stage, who are our guest artists for every audition, what does that candidate pool look like? So we really started getting serious about all of those things. I had to learn a lot about fair and equitable hiring to make sure that I was doing a better job when recruiting new staff. Board, there's a whole bunch we could say about, for every white man we bring onto the board, can we please also bring on a woman and a person of color? And we started really codifying those goals, and they're not perfect. Like I said, this was, part of my own journey too, but Joshua, there's a lot we can say about boards. Yeah. So anyways, to answer the last part of the question, because I know I'm getting long-winded, if those were the pillars, the piece of advice I would give is, you asked about individuals, especially entry level in their career. And I think, I definitely don't have all the answers, but I've been thinking about this question a lot. And I think a lot of institutions don't know the extent of the problem. You don't know what you don't know. So I think that means as candidates, we have a choice. It is not anybody's job, especially somebody who's from a historically marginalized and underrepresented group. It's not anybody's job to do that emotional labor, to do that educating. Like, I want to be clear on that. But that means you have a choice. Do you want to look for organizations that at least have values alignment? That's a way the narrative has changed. I think 5 years ago, and definitely when I was entering the workforce, we didn't talk about values alignment nearly as much. So are they doing the work? What is that process? Did they hire a chief development officer and call it good? Well, we know that's not really satisfactory. So what else is in place? So I think that's the advice I would give, is that I think we can be more choosy as candidates, and especially in a job market like right now, where it really is that great reshuffle, great resignation. So many arts organizations are hiring and looking for good talent, looking for different talent than the homogenous way it had been for so long. So I see a lot of opportunity. I know we have so much challenge and work ahead, especially for the traditional institutions, but that's what's coming to my mind to answer that question, Rosa. So thank you.
Wow, that was rich and really wonderfully structured. So thank you so much, Aubrey. Does anyone on the panel have any thoughts or reflections they want to share from from Aubrey's sharing? Count down 5, 4, 3, 2.
The 90% turnover thing, I don't know what the average is. It's amazing you were able to measure that. Can you?
That's nationwide data for orchestras, just so everybody knows.
Oh,
That's
okay.
like yeah, and
Wow.
other disciplines aren't that far off. Just know that. So it's pretty astounding. So.
Go ahead, Sydney.
No, I just keep thinking of the opportunities. The opportunities for people of color, for LGBTQ people, when it comes to orchestras and so forth, of even being able to do that kind of work. I remember I hosted a queer orchestra event, and just being able to host that kind of event and seeing the people who were like playing on that kind of stuff, it was like 75% white, and I was like the only person of color who was like hosting, and like even the people who were in the audience were like 85% white, and I was like, do you all even promote to like people of color, and like where are the Black people at? And they were like, oh, we didn't think about promoting. And I was like, y'all didn't think about that? Why? And they were like, well, they didn't, well, you know, they got all flabbergasted about like, well, we didn't think about giving tickets to, you know, Black youth and da da da. And I was like, y'all, where's the intention, y'all? What about that? But the arts have always been geared towards the elite. It's always been geared towards people with money, or people seen as people who have money and stuff like that. And it's always been geared towards that kind of thing. And that's, well, I'll talk about that on my question too, but it's always been an elitist kind of field. But then it's always been seen that the artists have been, the struggling artists were always poor, but then the people who go to the arts as seen as the elite. So it's always this juxtaposition thing too. It's always very interesting.
I love that reflection, Sydney. Thank you. And you're totally right. And you made me have a flashback just now, because I was actually the first chair flautist. Is that how you say it? I forget. In middle school. And sometimes I look at that picture and I'm like, what would have happened if somebody was like, keep this flute and keep going? But the school took it back and broke my heart. So let's continue now. And we're going to talk to our next panelist, our next question. Thank you so much, Christina, Sydney, and Aubrey, for your offerings. And this question goes to David Holland. David, so glad you're here, part of today's journey. So you shared in our rehearsal last week that one of your personal passions is to find ways to support the careers and aspirations of artists of color and LGBTQIA+ artists. As the Deputy Director of WESTAF, Western States Arts Federation, an organization that weaves technology, diverse thought, leadership, and innovation to energize, network, and fund public sector arts agencies and communities, what are some ways we can set up new artists of color and folks who identify as LGBTQIA+ for success? What are some gems you might share today that can support the advancement of our diverse communities?
All right. Thanks so much for the question, Rosa. And I will start by saying I'm going to share 3 very specific examples of things that I'm working on, because I always think that it's helpful to ground what you're saying and the realities of the work that you do. So I'll be sharing some things in the chat as I go through. I think that I'll start with, in a sense, what I think artists who are BIPOC or artists who are LGBTQ, indeed like women artists, indigenous artists specifically, et cetera, There are many folks in the structure that we currently have within our field that aren't afforded the same types of opportunities. And there are many, many reasons why people face barriers. But I do think that one thing that I'd encourage artists to do is to seek out networks and opportunities to be part of spaces where you can be in dialogue with others. And that's not only about identifying ways that you can address the barriers or challenges that you might face, but also just for camaraderie, for feedback, for critique of your work, for partners on projects. Sometimes artists are encouraged to think of themselves individually, but I found that communities of artists, which many of you know, are very rich and very supportive, and can really advance your work and advance your careers, because a lot of it is around relationship. So typically for me, I focus on things that are around people's agency, not about the challenges that we face. How can we use our agency? How can we use our talents to move ourselves and each other forward? So one thing that I'd stress is identifying those networks and being part of spaces with other artists, especially other artists that share your values and may even share your identity as well. I think that that's very important. I also think development opportunities are important. So seeking out those opportunities where you can learn more about how to manage your career as an artist, manage your practice, advance that practice, advance your career. There are many, many programs and opportunities that exist for artists in the world that support your development. And so I'd encourage any artist to seek out those opportunities, because they can, again, be very fundamental. They can give you very practical tools. They often also come with the kinds of networks that I mentioned that I think are very important. I think also something that's important is the projects that you do in your portfolio, if you will, regardless of the art form that you're in, and really taking advantage of opportunities to develop projects that really show your individual voice and what you want to bring into this field. And I think that being able to do that allows you to establish a reputation, which is kind of a traditional way of talking about it, but it does give you visibility, it gives you presence, it gives you something to build toward as you move through your career. And I think within that, it's important, if this is of interest to you, to also seek out funding opportunities to support those kinds of projects and the advancement of your career, and even seek out awards, presenting your work in particular places, artist residencies, and a lot of things like that. I've worked over my career a lot with individual artists in different types of organizations and higher ed, where I was working with students and faculty who are artists. And I think that the things that I outlined are pretty much fundamental to how you can advance opportunities for yourself and your career in the world. And if you notice, I'm focusing on that, like I said, and not on the challenges and barriers that we face, because there are many, but there are many things that are available to us to advance our lives and our careers. And I try to focus on that. We have agency, we have the ability to realize our dreams. And I think it's oftentimes more productive to focus on that. I do think it's important also, I will say, as I transition to, again, if you have the energy and motivation to do this, to involve activism in your work as an artist and seek changes to the system that we currently have, and be willing to use your voice and use your platform to shine a light on the inequities that we all continue to face. I think that it's important to do that, but I also know that not everyone has the energy to do that. Not everyone hears that call to do that. And so I say, for those who do feel that call, it can be important to respond to that and be a light in the world and shine a light on challenges that we're all facing and seek to overcome those challenges. I put in the chat an organization I work with called B3 Media that, in a sense, brings together many of the things that I mentioned, and that is focused on what we would call BIPOC, and in the UK what are called BAME, Black and Minority Ethnic Artists, as well as LGBTQ artists. The majority of participants in the programs at B3 are women, indeed, and all of those things. It's a good example of what I'm talking about. It's a BAME, or as we would call it, BIPOC-led organization. I think that these kinds of efforts are very important. B3 has also worked in Brazil and throughout the Commonwealth, which is the former British Empire, supporting the work of artists across different communities and cultural contexts. So I think that this work is vital, is fundamental to the work that I do. I've worked with B3 for 15 years alongside any roles that I've had within institutions because I believe fundamentally in this type of work. And I'll just post two other opportunities that get to the things that I was talking about. One is called Performing Arts Discovery. And this is where I will just briefly say that there's a role that institutions like WestF and other institutions, funders, grant makers, and other organizations in the field have, and that is to change the systems that we have used and to change the structures that we've used to be more intentional, going back to what Sydney said about trying to reach communities that have often been denied access, to be perfectly frank about it. And so Performing Arts Discovery is a program of the National Endowment for the Arts that for years has focused on giving artists, American artists or US-based artists more precisely, opportunities in international markets. And WestF came to manage this program with a group of partners last year. And one of the things that we did was to reorient Performing Arts Discovery so it explicitly welcomed BIPOC artists and LGBTQ plus artists. And in doing so, there were a lot of conversations about structure, about law, about what we can do and what we can't do, about the language we can use, but we did put that explicit focus into the program, into what was, in some ways, a kind of traditional program to, again, focus on those who have not had the same access as others. Another thing that we do is to underwrite the scholarships for the Western Arts Alliance Conference. And within that, last year, we also put a priority and focus on BIPOC artists and LGBTQ plus artists. So I think it's important to use the systems and structures that we have and reorient them to really address the inequities that we've seen. And with that, I'll end. Thank you very much.
Oh my gosh, everybody take a breath. That was amazing. Whew, I feel so full and also like very inspired. I know coming out of school, I didn't know like what is the next step, like where do I go? And even the idea of going to like, well, back in the days, the website and to find grants and like what even is that? So thank you for sharing those links on the chat. I'm sure David will find a way to have the chat links shared to the rest of the world. And yes, please, folks, do research if you're watching this video and you're a newbie artist, or even someone who's wanting to transition into more creative roles and you want to transition your career. Look at California Arts Council, National Endowment of the Arts, and also if you want to become sponsored, fiscally sponsored, that's a thing you can look up. Please look up becoming fiscally sponsored, because there is, as Cindy had said earlier, this thing about the struggling artist, or you're only inspired when you're like working from a deficiency or a suffering, and I think that we need to dismantle that lie because it's making our communities sick. Yeah, so thank you so much, David. That was really rich. And speaking of the power of network and the power of connection, we're going to now transition over to our next panelist, Christina Wong. And Christina, congrats again on becoming the first Asian American woman to become a Pulitzer Prize finalist for drama. Huge. Huge.
Thank you.
Yes, and your show, Christina Wong, a sweatshop overlord, has been celebrated here in the West Coast and in the East Coast. I know many Angelinos are ecstatic for your success because we know of the incredible community arts impact you've had on us here in LA. So I wanted to ask you about the rich backstory of your show.
Sure.
And how it involves the Auntie Sewing Squad. Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, I was touring a completely other show, which I'd spent like 3 years working on. I couldn't get a lot of funder money to create the show, so I was going to try to make it up on the back end, and that was Christina Wong for public office. So I kind of got to a place in after a certain election in November 2016, where I was like, oh my God, politicians and artists have switched jobs. they're the clowns, they're the spectacle makers, and we as artists are left being the social change makers. We're left holding on to earnestness. And it doesn't make sense as a satirist to try to make more satire about a situation like, I mean, we were all there, folks, right? Unless there are 2-year-olds on this call, right? we were all waking up every day in a living, we still are, frankly, like a living version of the Onion. And so I was like, okay, I know, I'm gonna, rather than try to make a show that tells the world how crazy the world is, make them come all the way to the theater to tell them what they're already living in, maybe I'll just run for office and do a show about running for office, since these politicians are hell-bent on taking my job from me as a satirist. So I looked into lots of different offices to run for. I decided to run for neighborhood council because it doesn't do a campaign. And if you run for anything with a salary, you have to raise, especially in Los Angeles, hundreds of thousands of dollars to have a compelling campaign, and you still might not be elected, right? So ran, won, did this had this whole rally like show that was set to tour. And my second live show at a college in Sacramento, the students get a text saying that the campus is going online until further notice. So I head back to Koreatown where I live. I'm deemed non-essential, as all artists are in this moment. Literally the work we do as live artists could kill somebody, like creating gatherings. It's maybe, we're still sort of in this space where we're recovering from this. And I sew my set pieces and my props. I've never made medical equipment before, but saw an article saying that hospitals were looking for home sewn masks. And I was like, I have an essential skill. I did not become a nurse. I could save one though. And I made this very naive offer to the internet. If you are an essential worker or you are immunocompromised or you just can't access masks, I'll make you one. Because in that moment, it felt like that we could still sort of curb it and get it down. And this would just be a temporary fix until these freight, cargo boats from China showed up with all the masks. And then the government, of course, stepped in to evenly distribute it to everybody, right? So I overpromised to the internet that I can make masks, was way in over my head, decided, okay, I know, I'll ask Facebook for help. I'm going to start a sewing group on Facebook. And if they have leftover masks, maybe they'll help me with these promises. So I call it the Auntie Sewing Squad because I'm such a rush. I don't realize their acronym is ASS. And the fast forward, basically our group, it contains people like my own mother, her friends, a lot of Asian American women initially, because not just because that's who's in my social circle, but because we come from garment workers and it's a skill that we learned from our parents and grandparents as a survival skill. We end up going on for 18 months, 17 to 18 months. We sew 350,000 masks that get distributed to reservations, indigenous reservations, to migrants, who are farm workers, to migrant farm workers, also migrants at the border, to poor communities of color that are getting hit worse by the virus. And we end up doing relief drives to the Navajo Nation, to Standing Rock. And it becomes this whole mutual aid network that spans 800 volunteer aunties across 33 states. And it really, to me, looked like what FEMA would look like if it was run by artists. So many of the organizers in our group were other artists, and we just had that skill in us where we know people. Like my audience list became my resource people list. Like it became how we vetted connections to other organizers, because people, as we remember, it's hard to remember, were not in their offices. So we had to do all those extra steps to figure out, where can you receive mail? What does your community need? Who's going to distribute this once this gets there? So that became the topic of Christina Wong's Sweatshop Overlord, which I premiered off Broadway in New York last fall. And it really, to me, was not just like, look at what I did. It was celebrating this community of care that had emerged out of this crisis, and this very unique community that I think was able to come together because there were so many artists who were part of it, and who were able to look at, how do we organize this group, not in a capitalist way, not how do we recreate a factory line. I mean, the joke is I'm a sweatshop overlord, but it became very clear we cannot just like point at people who are also affected by the virus and make them so and so and so to no end. That we have to understand that the incentive to be part of this community is that it is a community in a time where we are very scared, where human contact is, could put our lives at risk, and so it became the system of this is why people do theater for no money, right? Not that that's okay, but like it's because you go to be there because it gives you purpose, because it gives you people to hang out with, it gives you a social circle. And so that's what we were creating with Auntie Sewing Squad. It felt like this creative project that like a Mellon grant should have funded, except it just sort of showed up and organically grew to this big network. That's what I got.
That's incredible. Please, any reflections? I feel like people have reflections. Aubrey, David, Sydney. Yes, please.
Sydney is just waving. He's frozen. Oh, there you are.
There it is. No, it's how movements are made, right? There's a need that comes, and Christina, you're just so brilliant. Just the way your mind works, and you've always been of service. Just the way your mind works, and we take what our community has, and then we take it and we run with it, and then people always want to help us. And I think that's a fallacy of like people think that we're selfish people and we want to keep what's ours, but in reality,
we as artists, is that what you're? Is that the stereotype as artists?
Yeah, people always think that we're selfish people, but in reality, people want to help us. And when people see us like putting things together, people want to chip into the pot, and then all of a sudden there's this like happening, and then it runs. It becomes this whole thing bigger than ourselves, and it's this beautiful thing. And I've been following you. I've been following you for years, Christina, and I'm just like so proud of you and just so in awe.
Thank you.
Of you, and you inspire me all the time of like the things you're doing and stuff like that. You inspired me to write my own stuff, and I'm writing my third show because of you, and you're doing your stuff too. So, Pulitzer, who knows? But hey, we aspire. That's what's up.
Thank you. I will say too that the aunties. Very much we were in this weird moment at the top of the pandemic where capitalism was sort of just, at least for the things that we needed, like we could not buy masks because masks did not exist, right? Or you could pay up the nose for the masks that were on the market, or you could make them. And so it was this interesting situation where I still don't know what half the aunties do for a living, and I'm learning some work in the arts and some don't. And what was most valuable is what you had to give in that moment, like the energy, the sewing energy you had to give. Like people kept sending me money, but I was like, this is not gonna make me sew faster, like this takes the time this will take. I will say that one funny thing that one auntie who doesn't work in the arts said is like, next pandemic, look for the artists, because she was just like stunned at like how the stage manager volunteer just boom, 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 like knew how to set up a spreadsheet, knew how to set up a contact sheet, that we had figured it out the way that people in government did not. Government was way slower than the aunties were. Nonprofits were slower than the aunties were. But something about artists, we can make a show happen in that garage. We don't have a mic. We'll figure this out. It's a sort of resourcefulness that we have.
That's so true, and I'm just in awe and inspired, as Sydney has just said, because I hope there's someone listening right now at Christina's words and thinking, what can I do in my community with my superpower, with my artistry, or with my ability to talk and make people laugh, and how can I make an impact and change? Thank you, Christina, for your offering, Sydney too, for your reflection. And now for our final question. I think we'll have time for Q&A. I'm so excited. And it's going to go to the incredible Sydney Rogers. So, Sydney, we're so honored to have you in virtual space. Your activism and creative work in film and media is empowering and essential for the visibility of trans, gender diverse, and intersex communities. So much is happening in the world today that could dishearten us, but you remain steadfast in your work to support and uplift the voices of others who are on their path towards economic growth and overall wellness. So please share with us some ways that your activism has played a part in your artistry and how emerging artists and organizations can educate, empower, and energize themselves in uplifting the gender equity movement in the arts and beyond.
Oh, goodness. Your words are so beautiful. Thank you so much. The first word that comes to mind when I was reading this, thank you for sending this ahead of time. And thank you for having me on this panel. I'm very honored to be amongst these amazing people. I'm like, what, me? I've been doing drag since 1992. Probably before a lot of these people in this room were born. But when I first started doing this, I've been doing musical theater, started doing musical theater and doing stuff. The love of on stage and pretend to be I'm not was very appealing to me considering where I came from, right? I mean, just the whole aspect of pretend and the whole aspect. But then coming out as a queer kid, a femme kid, being able to be organic and being able to be authentic was something that was just very, very appealing to me. And then growing up and going into theater and being able to be on stage and being able to create and that whole creative process, I think is something that has stuck with me over the years. And then as drag has become more mainstream, you know, RuPaul's Drag Race and so forth, I realized that I because what I wrote down on here was intention and evolution. And what I find is that to stay in this field and to stay in your artistry, you have to learn how to evolve. I couldn't just be in the clubs and prance around and just be a drag queen. I had to learn to, take my theater chops and sing and dance. And then I had to learn to produce as well. And then I had to be able to write and go take my drag and then go back into theater again. And then I had to like learn how to produce shows for other people. And then I had to go be a vessel and go play Christina Wong's cat, in somebody else's stuff. And then you have to go learn how to go be a vessel. So I think as an artist, be narrow-minded in your own world. But yeah, you have to be able to switch and pivot, and not everything you're going to do is gold. I think that it's a fallacy of thinking everything you're going to do is going to be top notch 100%, because you're going to have to stumble and fall, and some things you're going to do is going to flop, and some things you're going to do is going to, you're going to get crickets, and then you catch that. I'm going to go back and redo it again and redo it again and redo it again. And then I noticed, oh my goodness, now coming out trans non-binary, I'm starting to find this voice of Miss Barbecue. I'm starting to find this social justice of Miss. Find this that I get to do as well. So now it's not just about putting on this glamorous gown and this makeup, but now I get to choose the songs that have a message, right? I get to choose certain things that I want to put my name behind, because in the beginning I'm just about exposure, right? I'm just trying to put my name out there, and I'm doing things for free, and I'm doing the hustle where I'm doing 5 shows a week and all this stuff. But then over the years, I'm choosing intentionally what I'm putting my name behind, what stands out. And then I'm starting to go, okay, my heart says yes to this. My heart says no to this. I don't have time for this, and I'm working full time. I'm going to school now, going to grad school. I'm sitting on board, which I've always wanted to do. So now I'm being more no to too, right? Because as a person of color, as a trans person of color, yes to everything. Because one, you got to sleep, you got to eat well. Thank you for that breathing exercise in the beginning. You got to have time for yourself. I have to schedule dinners, and I have to schedule times. You have to schedule yoga. You got to schedule that time, all those kinds of things. So in all that kind of stuff, the uplifting of the gender equity movement does mean eating well, does mean self-care, does mean protest, does mean making the flyers, does mean as I'm getting older, I'm gonna let the young people march, right? Because I don't want rubber bullets in my face. I'm too old for rubber bullets and being in a jail with being misgendered and being beat up by grown men. Sorry, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let the young people do that now and let them be of service. So a lot of times in the movement means allowing space for other people to go be of service. And I've noticed that too. And a lot of times being in the movement means letting me step back and being quiet, and that I don't always have to be the one to step up and raise my hand and step up and use all my energy all the time. I've noticed that. Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of times too. I know this is being recorded, but I don't care. I hit 50 last year. And that put a lot of stuff in perspective, right? Right? That for me of like, according to statistics, I'm not even supposed to be here as a Black trans woman. I'm not even supposed to be here. So now it's about maintenance and longevity. It's about okay, now that I hit 50, what does my art look like in the long run? What is the movement look like 50, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? What does my legacy look like for me? What and what does it look like that I want to give to other people? What do I want to give to other artists coming up? Now I get other artists going, oh my gosh, Miss Barbecue, you're sober. What does it look like? What does it look like for other people? What do I want to leave to other people? I'm looking at writing books now, not just one book of my memoirs. I want to write numerous books. What does that look like? I want to do more solo work. What does that look like? Other people. Edutainment, as Christina Wong taught me years ago, right? Edutainment. Yes, I remember that. Yeah, we want to teach other people how do we do our work, and how do we nurture them and help them bring up that work too. Because all of this work that we're doing, we teach other people how to do this kind of stuff too. That's how we teach a movement to keep going. I keep thinking of Maya Angelou and all the artists, and James Baldwin, and all these other artists that came before us. We learned from them. All these other people are going to learn from us years from now. And it makes me proud that I have a body of work. It's not just one thing that I've done. It's not just this other project that we've done. We in this room, we have bodies of work that people are going to Google and look up years from now and go, oh, look, Aubrey has this, Christina has this body, has this body of work that they can look and see that we've done and we can be proud of. Thanks.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Unmute yourselves because I want to hear the claps for all of us. Oh my gosh.
It's so important to like understand that we can't go at it the way we shouldn't be going at it the way we did at 20, 30, 40, we physically cannot, but also if you keep doing things the same way over and over again, what is that? Insanity, right? So
Right.
Mm,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mm,
so
And it's
true.
okay. And it's okay to slow down. I think that's the whole aspect of it too. Is that it's okay to like, you haven't lost your thunder. You haven't lost your. If anything, we've honed it. We've stuffed it.
Yes, Sydney. We do have one question in the Q&A chat. And do we have time to ask that question to the panel, David?
Unfortunately, we don't have time to ask the question, but we will have time in a couple of minutes when we go back to the tables. If that person wants to ask question, or if any of you all have questions, we're for those of you who can stay until 2, we'll make ourselves available to keep the conversation going. But yeah, I just want to say thank you, Rosa, for doing an amazing job moderating. So snaps. Give some applauses below the chat, the applause button, thumbs up button for Rosa. I want to say, Sydney, I hope Sydney's still with us, but I want to say when Sydney said like, what, me choosing me? I think you all know now why. I mean, Sydney, you are part of our community. It's an honor to have you in this space. A little quick anecdote: when I was on the board, and I currently still am on the board of Western Arts Alliance, Sydney came in and helped build QA committee of Western Arts Alliance, was LGBTQ plus committee, and really pushed the organization as a whole towards more social justice and equity and centering the type of lives that we're talking about. So thank you, all of you, Aubrey, Christina, David, thank you for taking this time. Thank you for sharing your stories, being open and vulnerable in this way, and providing such richness to our attendees. So yes, we are going to segue now to Brian, Sonia, Wallace again, if you're ready. So I'm going to let our wonderful panelists, turn those cameras and mics off. And again, another final applause and snaps for the crew. Hopefully many of them will be able to be at the table so you can say hi in a few minutes. But there we go, Brian's back. Good to see you again, Brian. You got something for us
Man,
from
what
that?
an incredible panel. I'm so excited to share back this. I've been calling them keynote poems, a poem of reflection. It's a found poem made up from words that the panelists shared. So here is Ode to Hot Justice, Part 2, a closing. Hello, Sims. Stretch. Don't forget to breathe. You've doubled the size of your audience. New roles in new spaces, a foot in the door. The board was adamant that they wanted change, but didn't know what that meant. The narrative is changing. Customer, community, listen. Invite people back. What gets measured gets managed. I was actually the first chair flautist until the school took the flute back and broke my heart. Artist, build your community. Art exists in relationships. Seek out awards. Don't wait for them to come. We have agency, the ability to realize our dreams. Involve activism in your work as an artist. Shine a light if you have the energy. What even is that? They're the clowns, and we're left holding on to our earnestness, our mailing lists. What if FEMA were run by artists? We know people. A community of care emerges from crisis. It's how movements are made. People want to help. Next pandemic, look for the artists. What I wrote down was intention and evolution. We have to learn and evolve, stumble and fall. Now I get to choose the songs, make space for others to be of service. Invitation to rest, invitation to nurture, invitation to James Baldwin, bodies of work, bodies, breathing, stretching. You haven't lost your power. You've honed it. Thank you, Hot Justice.
Bows and snaps to you, Brian. That was awesome. And people, yes, our crew put some applauses and thumbs up and some affirmations in the chat if you were feeling that. That is a skill, you all. This is not something that everyone can do. And I just want to quickly say this is part of one of the many gifts that Brian gives to the world. This is part of what Brian does professionally. So if what you just heard resonates with you, we're going to open up for a few minutes to have you all back at the tables, and feel free to find Brian if you can, or send them a chat right now, and connect, because it is a really beautiful, beautiful gift that Brian brings to this space and to that work. So thank you again. And at this moment, I believe it's time to bring Matt, to bring our amazing community engager Matt back. I also want to quickly give a shout out to our community engager, pardon me, Tyree, who's with us, and our engagement producer, Matt. Again, thank you so much for logistically supporting everything that's going on in the behind the scenes. You all, this is not just this event is not running itself. We've got a team of people who are in the background keeping things afloat, communicating, connecting. Also want to give a shout out and a thanks to Jessica, or the technician who's joining us from the Remo organization, to help with tech. So now at this point, oh good, Matt's already got it ready up. We are going to now show a video from one of our sponsored artists. You might remember I had mentioned in the beginning that we have micro sponsorships that Artist Magnet provides. One of them we were able to provide to Astralic Supernova, and so we're going to show you 4 minutes of Beaches and Cream, their work, and connect on the back end. So thanks. Take it away. Yes, that was very, very beautiful. That makes me want to go out to the beach right now. So give some snaps and put some claps below in the chat. Click on that clap button if you enjoyed witnessed. And would you like to say a couple of words, Mr. Alex? If you would, you can feel free to come on. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'll be super quick. I just want to give a little bit of context, and also thank you for giving me a little moment to share my work. This work was crafted and choreographed and shot in the San Francisco Bay Area. So in many ways, yeah, it was like a love letter to this place. And from this work, I think over the next year or two, I'm interested in designing an actual like club space that will become physically manifest at some point using like the template that I devised through this work. So I'm always kind of seeking ways to translate or distill one body of work into another. And I'm feeling called recently by like architecture. Um, I'm also sober, and so like, what does it look like to craft like a sober club space? And again, like with the audience being Black, Indigenous, queer, and trans creatives, of course. So yeah, that's a little bit about that. Thank you again.
Absolutely, thank you. And quickly, when Astrelix was, if I can share just a little anecdote, hopefully Astrelix will forgive me. When they were moving from Bay Area to LA, it was I think the same week I was moving from LA to the Bay Area, and they were just kind enough to connect and reached out, connect with me, and have been so supportive of my move here. And so we're really honored to be able to support your upcoming work, which I hope you get to tell people about. You can put it in the chat, and we can talk about it in a minute when we let people interact again. But that is the program. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. I want to do obligatory, but also happy to acknowledge our funders. If you'll indulge me for that moment. Thank the Yoruba Buena Center for the Arts and the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Their Power Convenings grant helped make this possible. Also, we got funding from California Arts Council and Cultural Center for Cultural Innovation. And so those four funders helped make what you see happen. So with that, want to just finally bring everyone that participated up to the stage. You want to do that for a sec before we leave presentation mode? If you want to say a wave, or to say a wave, to say a bye and give a wave to the group. We got Rosa, we got Estrelix, we got Aubrey, we got Matt, we got Tyree, we got Christina, Sydney, Jessica, Brian. It was many people, you all, to help make this beautiful, really magical moment in the middle of the madness happen. So thank you so much for the time. Thank you for the trust. part of Artist Mag Justice Alliance who knows what this is. This is new. We're exploring it together. Rosa and Jessica are both on our board of directors. How it goes. Allegra Padilla, I see you. We're holding down the translation in the Google Meet with our Spanish-speaking attendees. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for that work. Thank you, Sonji. And let's keep it moving right along. We wish you all a prosperous, healthy, and wealthy rest of the day, weekend, and future in your careers and endeavors. Take care, y'all.